If Putin does send nuclear weapons to Belarus, China says, there will be a nuclear sword hanging over our heads, threatening World War III. After Russia's announcement that it would deploy tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, China issued a warning of a possible World War III. China's UN ambassador, Zhang Shuang, issued a plea for global strategic stability, urging all major powers to refrain from escalating tensions. He urged international cooperation to avert a nuclear disaster in Ukraine and warned against any armed attacks on nuclear power plants or the use of nuclear weapons. China has called for global superpowers to step back from the brink of nuclear war as Russia announces a plan to deploy tactical nukes near Ukraine. Shuang described nuclear weapons as the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads, and urged all nuclear weapon states to reduce the risk of a nuclear war and avoid any armed confrontation. Shuang emphasized that nuclear proliferation must be prevented and nuclear crisis avoided, and he added that a nuclear war cannot be won and must not be fought, reiterating China's clear and consistent stance on nuclear weapons. We call for the abolition of the nuclear sharing arrangements and advocate no deployment of nuclear weapons abroad by all nuclear weapon states, Shuang said. China has vowed to never use nuclear weapons first and has publicly stated that it will never use nuclear weapons against nuclear weapon-free states or in nuclear weapon-free zones. Zhang urged everyone involved to stay rational, avoid aggravating tensions, and intensifying frictions, or fanning the flames, without naming Russia specifically. China has maintained what it calls its neutral position in the conflict while emphasizing its unrestricted friendship with Russia. Ukraine's UN ambassador Sergei Kislitsa praised China's stance, saying, "To the credit of the Chinese side, the Chinese side reminded Moscow in a very sensible manner that nuclear war cannot be won and fought, and nuclear proliferation must be prevented." China released a point peace plan to end the war last month, calling for a ceasefire and talks between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine has called Russian President Vladimir Putin's announcement of the plan to deploy tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus a desperate Kremlin attempt to avoid military defeat and threaten the world. He also criticized Russia for violating a pledge made to Chinese President Xi Jinping in a joint statement at their recent meeting in Moscow, declaring that all nuclear states should refrain from deploying nuclear weapons outside their countries and withdraw those deployed abroad. A reaction to the challenges and risks to national security, as Belarus's UN ambassador Valentin Rybakov put it, is behind the initiative. It comes after Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko suggested the day before that Putin, if he feels threatened, might also deploy strategic nuclear weapons in Belarus. Lukashenko made the claim in a speech that the nuclear weapons stationed on Belarusian soil would deter Western aggression against his country. The Russian leadership will resort to the worst possible weapon if it believes that the current crisis will lead to the dissolution of Russia. This can't go on.